Hello everyone, my name is
Anna,
Julia,
Linda,
Marieva,
Madalena,
Lazar.
and we are DYouth.
Are you high? Are you low? Hang on there, you aren't alone. Here we come, here we go, the youth around the globe.
DYouth welcomes you to the new episode of the Diabetes Daily podcast. Enjoy! Welcome. Please tell me something about yourself.
Hello, my name is Mafalda. I'm speaking from Portugal. I'm 35 years old and I have diabetes type 1 for 14 years, I guess. I suppose I stopped counting as from 10 years. I use pens to manage my diabetes. It's working pretty well, so I don't feel the need for an insulin pump. And so I'm a person that likes to study very much. I started doing a 4-year bachelor in biochemical sciences. Then I did some work in Belgium in biotech. I was working with some pharmaceutical companies developing new medicines, let's call it like this. And after a while, I felt like I needed a break from science. I wanted to study other things. So I decided to study Ayurvedic medicine and understand a little bit better how diseases were treated 5,000 years ago. So when these texts were written, it was a very, very long time ago. And it has been very interesting to mix both things and to understand, first of all, what they could do with what they knew back then. They didn't have labs, but they had many years to test things like foods, lifestyle, strategies, and so on. And I opened my own company. And after 7 years, which was last year, I thought that, okay, I really like to do research, so I really want to go back to science. And now I'm doing a master in neuroscience. And I'm very keen on learning how our brain and nervous system works. And I kind of do both things in parallel right now, my business and the studies.
How was your diagnosis? How do you feel about it now, and how far did this change?
My diagnosis, I think I was very lucky, to be honest, because when I started having the first symptoms and started talking to people and Googling it and so on, I heard a lot of stories of people that didn't really know what was happening with their bodies. And so they just woke up one day from a coma in a hospital surrounded by people with diabetes. And this can be a very challenging environment because you can have people that are 80 years old that already have a lot of problems, right? So I didn't go through it, and I'm very, very glad it didn't start like this. Of course, it was a shock. I started having the symptoms of losing weight, being hungry all the time, thirsty, drinking a lot of water. So I Googled it, and I thought, okay, this might be diabetes, but I didn't want to believe it, to be honest. I think it takes a while until you reach that point that you realize, okay, I do have diabetes. So then I called it's like a service we have in Portugal that is 24-hour available. You can call them and check your symptoms and so on, but they cannot do diagnosis by phone. So I said what I was feeling, and they said, okay, you should go to the hospital as soon as possible. And I was like, but is it diabetes? And the lady was like, I can't diagnose you on the phone, but you should go as soon as possible, because I had been like that for 15 years, I think. 15 days, sorry, 2 weeks. So I decided to wake up in the morning and check my blood sugar in the pharmacy. And yeah, it was like 600 or something. It was really, really high. And then I was lucky enough to. So the person that tested my blood, she knew a doctor that was actually part of the juvenile association of diabetes in Portugal. I don't really know how it is called in English, but it's like a part of the diabetes association that is dedicated to young people. And I was 22 or 21, I don't remember. So they put me in contact with her, and basically she managed to drop my blood sugar just by phone. Like, she was calling me every 30 minutes, 1 hour, like, okay, now inject a little bit more, okay, now how are your blood sugars, how are you feeling? And that was really, really nice. So I ended up having my first low at around 140 milligram per deciliter. So as you can see, it was really high. So my brain perceived 140, which is not low blood sugar for me nowadays. Luckily, as a low blood sugar, I felt all the symptoms, and yeah, my diagnosis was very. I mean, it was a shock because she told me, "Okay, you need insulin," and I was like, "What?" And I cried. Of course, I did all those things. But then, soon enough, I started feeling like, okay, I have diabetes. I'm going to do the best I can. How can I manage this? I started studying a lot, reading a lot of things, and so on, and finding a way of living happy with it. But it changed, of course. So in 14 years, I had this period that everything was okay, that I was managing it very well. Let's call it honeymoon. I think it lasted a little bit longer. It was like 1 or 2 years. And then I started feeling really exhausted and really drained, tired, like, okay, I have to do this every day. I have to inject every day. I have to do these maths and calculate how much I'm eating and guess, because it's a guesstimation, right? We never really know what we're eating unless we are at home cooking our own foods and weighing everything separately. And this started making me feel very heavy. And I started feeling very depressed, and that my life had no purpose if I had to live with this forever. So yeah, that changed a little bit, and I think it was 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that I reached a really happy place with diabetes. I feel like I'm at peace with it. I did therapy for that. It helped me a lot to perceive things differently, because it's not about convincing yourself that you have to accept it, I think, because I tried it like, okay, I have diabetes, so I have to learn to live with it. It's going to be forever, blah, blah. But that's different than what can I do with diabetes, and not, okay, what can I do, right? It's the opposite. So I started looking at things like, okay, I'm I'm not less of a person. I can still do everything. Maybe I just need to adapt and do things differently. I think that's where peace came in. Of course, there are some days I feel tired and I don't feel like doing maths and so on. But it's a mix of acceptance and getting used to it, I think. So yeah, so this was my journey in a nutshell.
What scared you the most at first with your diabetes?
I think the first thing that scared me the most was the stigma around diabetes, that everyone with diabetes will have problems and will lose their feet or their whole leg or something like this. And I immediately thought, like, okay, my life is ruined, you know. But then I started, and this doctor that followed me for some years, she helped me a lot in that, showing me that, okay, if you control your diabetes and if you learn how to live happy with it, you don't necessarily have to have these problems, right? So that was the thing that scared me the most. But then it went away. I won't say that I don't think about it sometimes, like, oh, maybe one day my kidneys will fail, or. But if there is one thing that diabetes taught me, is to live in the present moment and not to try to overlook the future too much, because it's so unpredictable, right? It's a disease that can change with so many things that even in a daily basis, you can't really, like, okay, I had a really good day yesterday, but nothing guarantees me. I can do the best I can, but it can be different tomorrow. So yeah, living in the present moment has been a very nice experience. So I'm not anxious or anything. I just wake up in the morning and wow, what can I do today? Of course, I have plans in my life, but I don't let it bring me down. And that was the thing that scared me the most. The other thing was what I already mentioned. Was, can I handle this forever? Like, I will be so exhausted. Like, I'm already exhausted after 10 years. Like, in 60 years, I will be so exhausted. I don't know if I can do this forever. But yeah, living in the present moment also helped me to, take baby steps and one thing at a time.
What barriers do you feel diabetes has created in your life?
That's a tough one because I feel like I'm limitless, honestly. Um, I mean, there are some things that I once thought about doing, and maybe I dropped it because of diabetes, but looking back, mm, I'm still happy without it. And one of them was diving. I remember before being diagnosed, I wanted to do scuba diving certificate. I wanted to take the certification because I really wanted to see the sea underneath and all these things. But I was also a little bit scared of it. Like, what the hell am I going to encounter deep in the seas? And then I kind of procrastinated a bit, like, oh, maybe I do it next year. Maybe I do it next year. And then diabetes came to my life. And then my doctor told me, okay, so there is a lot of pressure when you're down under. So maybe that's not good for your blood vessels. So I suggest that you don't do diving. And I was like, in that moment, I blamed it on diabetes. But then I got a bit more conscious about it, and I was like, okay, I wasn't really like I wasn't really keen on doing that. Otherwise, I would have done it already, right? So that was one of the things I remember I took out of my bucket list because of diabetes, but that didn't made me change a lot. Now there is another thing, and in this case, I don't think diabetes was a barrier. I think diabetes kind of enlightened me. So it was a positive thing because we women suffer a lot from some kind of social pressure, like to have kids and so on. And the normal thing is that you have kids, right? No one asks you, like, when. Um, um, Wait, let me put this in a easy way to understand. But like, people usually ask you, like, when are you going to have kids, or do you want to have kids? No one asks you, like, why do you want to have kids? So it is. What is accepted is that you have kids, you build a family, and so on and so on. And I was feeling that pressure. And there was a time in my life I felt like getting pregnant. But because I had diabetes, I had to think about it and I had to prepare it for a longer period that maybe a healthy person has to. And during that period that I was preparing myself to get pregnant, I got the chance to think clearly if I really wanted to be a mom. And then I started thinking, like, okay, this will be challenging to be pregnant with diabetes. If this is already something that makes me exhausted, imagine being pregnant, right? You have to be controlling every single thing. And that was one of the things I was not ready for. And then I thought, whoa, what about having a baby and having to manage myself and the baby, right? Because babies get your attention at 300%. And luckily, I had a lot of friends and also my sister having babies before me. So I got to experience a bit how was life with a baby and with diabetes. And I'm very happy that I took that time to think about it, because even if I didn't have diabetes, today I know that I don't want to get pregnant, and I see my life without a baby in my life. So so I'm very happy for it. I would say that it started as a barrier, but it was actually enlightening, and it helped me understanding what I really wanted. And when I look back, I think, okay, I'm so glad I didn't get pregnant. My life would be so different now. It would maybe be good as well. I'm not saying that having a baby is a bad thing. Okay. But the life I want to live and the things I like to do are much more compatible having a dog, which is my baby.
Do you have a moment or history of your diabetes that you would like to share?
Yeah. Can I share two? A sad and a happy? Okay, so I will start with the sad. Like I was saying in the beginning, there was a moment that I was feeling very depressed, and I thought I wouldn't be able to live happy with diabetes. And if there is one thing that is very important for me, is if I'm going to live on this planet, I need to be happy and I need to have fun. Otherwise, it's not worth it. That doesn't mean I don't suffer and I don't have issues. Of course, I do. But ultimately, when I put everything on a scale, I need to be happier than sadder, right? And for me, that is very important. If it happens the other way around, then it's not worth living. So my drive every day is to have fun. I have fun in everything I do. I have fun at work. I have fun when I go out with friends. I have fun when I'm feeling sad and I'm trying to uncover what's happening in my brain and in my body. I take pleasure from everything I do in my life. And diabetes wasn't allowing me to do that in a way, because I was feeling like it was stopping me, that it was draining me, making me feel sad, whatever. And there was a moment I was feeling very depressed. And then I started doing therapy and I went on medication and so on. But in that moment, I was feeling very, very sad. I told my family that I was going to give up life, and I wasn't going to live anymore. So I told them, like, I promise to have a clean death so that you don't have too much trouble dealing with it. But yeah, be prepared, because that is going to happen. I'm not going to live like this anymore. Um, and actually, my husband said something that was very touching for me in that time. And he didn't, because usually when a friend or a loving person tells you something like this, you try to stop her, right? And you say, okay, but don't do that. Like, but what he told me was like, okay, you're free to do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop you. But I want you to remember what you have in your life, that you have people that love you very much, that you make a difference in a lot of people's lives, regardless of diabetes. You bring joy to a lot of rooms, and you have a dog that loves you more than anything. And that really, yeah, that really made me rethink everything. Before that conversation, my strategy to die was to inject insulin, because I thought, okay, a lot of people die. I don't remember the percentages, but I know that there are a lot of studies that show that I don't know how many people, but it's quite a lot of people that die with low blood sugar during the night. So I thought, okay, I will just get my body used to have more insulin and not correcting it. So I started injecting more and more and more and more before going to bed, until I was able to fight this survival mode that we all have when we have a low blood sugar, right? We can't see anything else in front of us but eating sugar. So I kind of controlled it to a point that, well, this is not very nice, because I think like my inner sensors got a bit screwed, because nowadays, if I don't usually have low blood sugar during the night, but if I do, I don't wake up with it. So I sometimes wake up in the morning and I check my cell phone, and I realized that I've been like sleeping the whole night with 41 or 42 milligram per deciliter, and I didn't notice anything. So that's what I did until there were like 2 nights that I injected a lot of insulin, hoping to die. But that didn't happen. And then my husband had this conversation with me, and I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do. And this was the moment I started focusing on what I had good in my life, you know? Like, okay, diabetes is a part of my life. It's a big part of my life actually, because it takes a lot from me, right? But let me make a list of all the other things I have good and that I can still do. And when I did that list, I realized, okay, there are a lot of things. I'm so stupid. How come I thought I wanted to say goodbye to this life? This life is amazing. And then with therapy and so on, it got much better. And now I'm very attached to life. I don't want to die. I mean, if I do, well, it happens, right? We cannot control it, but I will not force it. And this was the sad moment, that period I was depressed. The happy moment was when it actually happened very, very recently, like last week. And so after this period of sadness and depression and so on, I started taking responsibility of myself. And not like I know I'm responsible of myself, but like my happiness is not dependent on anything or anyone else. It's me who makes my happiness. And that actually helped me to have better values and a better management of diabetes. And I realized that the happier I am, the easier it is to manage diabetes. Nowadays, I'm not a control freak, so I think I do a good management, but I'm not like checking my cell phone all the time and counting everything. It's like I go out for dinner and I think, okay, usually when I go out for dinner, I usually eat around these carbs, or I inject around this kind of units. And then I do the best I can, you know. Sometimes it's okay below 180, sometimes I get to 150, but things get more or less between these intervals. And my A1C, I think it's like this you say in English, my A1C has been like 6.9 and 6.8 sometimes for many, many, many months now. And recently, I changed a lot my mindset around diabetes, and I'm really focused on being happy and on looking after my nutrition and so on, but in a pleasant way. And last week I got tested and I have a 6.1, and I'm so happy that, okay, I have high blood sugar sometimes, I have low blood sugar sometimes, but in general, it's not like, it's not the roller coaster it used to be. Like highs and lows happened, of course, they will always happen, but I reached this point of peace, and it's like I'm okay with it, you know. I wake up in the morning and I know what I have to do, and if something is not on my reach to change, I just let it go and I continue doing the best I can. And I know we are not numbers. I mean, if when I had 6.9, that didn't define me. I knew I was doing the best I could, but seeing this value makes me realize that, yeah, this is the way to go, you know, is to be relaxed about it, is to do the best I can, is to be happy, is to have fun. So yeah, that was a very, very happy moment last week when I saw the results.
Do you think Ayurvedic medicine can help control diabetes and have some impact on diabetes control?
Yes, definitely, especially when it comes to lifestyle and nutrition as well. Yeah, but lifestyle I think is the most important, because it was with Ayurvedic medicine that I realized the importance of having a routine, but at the same time to be flexible enough to do things that are usually not in your routine. So, meaning that it's important to have a routine, to wake up every day at the same time, to go to bed at the same time, to even doing sports. I realized that if I like doing sports Monday morning, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning again, it's a little bit more challenging for me than if I fix a schedule. Okay, this is the time of the day I am going to do exercise. And a lot of these things I learned with Ayurveda. No one really had mentioned this to me before. Also, the lunchtime, dinner time, what I eat in the evening, what I eat at lunchtime, what I eat in the morning. And yeah, this lifestyle tips that Ayurveda taught me have been very, very useful, I would say. For those who don't know what Ayurveda is, Ayurvedic medicine is an ancient medicine that was born in India. Just if we compare, it's like traditional Chinese medicine in China. And Ayurvedic medicine is based on the 5 elements that we have and the qualities of those elements. For instance, the element air is lighter and drier than, for example, the element earth, that is more compact, more wet, more solid. So there are different qualities amongst the different elements, and since we are part of nature, and nature has all these elements, Ayurveda teaches us how to balance these qualities and these elements according to our own body, but also according to the environment we live in. For example, being healthy and balanced will be different for someone living in the North Pole and for someone living in the Mediterranean Sea. Because the climate is very different. In one place you will be colder, on the other place you will be drier or warmer, and I think that is very interesting because it's not something that you spread worldwide and it's the same for everyone. No, it gives you tools to understand how can you do the best for yourself according to your own situation and where you live, and also the season. Like, it's different what we do for our bodies in the summer and in the winter, in the rainy season, and in the spring, for example. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is more or less what Ayurveda studies.
What was your personal power secret to keep on and fight?
Well, the first word that pops up in my mind is self-awareness. It's like living the autopilot, yeah, self-awareness. Because the moment I was fully aware of my emotions, of my physical body, like what I was feeling. Yeah, when you get to know yourself, you basically get all the tools you need to work on yourself, right? So yeah, I think self-awareness is the best, and it has also helped me a lot becoming more empowered. And the question was about power, because in the beginning I felt like I was very dependent on the doctor's appointments and on what they told me that I should be doing. And I noticed such a big difference now when I go to the doctor. I mean, they are important and I know I need them. They have studied this, medically speaking, but they have no idea about how I'm feeling, right? And if I don't know, they are not going to be able to help me. And I notice a big difference now when I go to my endo appointments, the way I feel about what they are telling me and the way I felt before. So I'm not defeated now, it's like I remember once in an appointment to tell my doctor, he was asking me how much insulin I was injecting. And I was saying, okay, so before I ovulate, I inject this. After I ovulate and between ovulation and menstruation, I inject a little bit more. And his comment was something like, he was writing it, and his comment was something like okay, so you inject this, and when things are not so good, you inject a little bit more. And I interrupted him and I said, things are still good. My body is just slightly different during those 2 weeks. This is not bad, you know. But if he would tell me this like 10 years ago, I would be defeated, and I would be like trying the impossible. That would be to keep the same insulin amount during that period. That wouldn't work, you know. So yeah, I think self-awareness made me feel more empowered in many situations, and this is just an example of one of them. So I encourage everyone to do therapy, because psychotherapists, they know how the brain works, and they will not tell you who you are, but they will help you understanding what you're feeling and knowing who you are. But ultimately, you give the answer. So yeah, I really recommend it. It's the best investment I've done in my life.
What is your dream for the future of diabetes?
I think the cliche answer to this is that we find a cure. But I like to be realistic. I'm not sure if that will ever happen, and I'm not going to say why. But it's related to how the world is built. My dream is that, this will sound a little bit narcissistic, maybe. I don't even know if this word exists, but this will sound a little bit ego focused, but I think the change has to start with us, right? And I always think about this. Now, I will do a little quote here. That is, once I attended kind of a speech from a monk, a Tibetan monk, and he was asking everyone in the public, what would we do to bring peace to the world? And he let us think for a while. And everyone came up with ideas like, oh, I will create this association and this association. And his answer was so simple. And he said, if you want the world to be at peace, create peace in yourself, you know? Because if every human being is at peace, then the whole world is at peace. Then there is no need for wars, for fighting with your neighbor, for whatever, because you are just so comfortable and so at peace with yourself. You will not look for trouble, or you will not point your finger to the other person, because you are responsible. And I always think about this in many different situations in my life, and in diabetes is not different. So to answer this question, I tend to think about, what did I achieve in the past years as a diabetic? And what I wish for everyone is to do some self-work, create this self-awareness, and not reaching the point I'm at, because you can reach much, much further, right? I mean, we can always improve. But I think if everyone would reach a point where they are at peace with diabetes, and they can manage it in a peaceful way, not with guilt or with a heavy weight on their backs. I think if there is not a cure, this can be kind of a cure. Because at least people with diabetes would be happier in general.
What message would you like to leave? What is your conclusion?
Never let your inner child die, and always have fun in everything you do, no matter how challenging it might look like. Because for as long as you're a child, you can always find a way to play and to discover the world with amazement. And I think that's everything in life, honestly.
Are you high? Are you low? Hang on there, you are up to low. Here we come, here
thanks you for receiving this episode of Diabetes Daily. We hope you like it. Thank you for your support. If you feel like sharing your own story, check out our show notes on how you can do so. Until next week, we wish you good blood sugar.